Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon on the 17th of September 2017, officially instigating part 2. As I just finished watching A Holiday for the Doctor, the first episode of the Gunfighters, but before I get to that, I would like to apologize profusely for not being able to actually get anything done. I just started college, and I'm just about ready to start back into the swing of making videos again. It may be a little less frequent than the original speed of the marathon, but hopefully I can make it work with the Gunfighters being the first story we're tackling, and hopefully by the end, I think the beginning of next month, I have it set, we should be able to be done with the Hartnell era, done and dusted, which will conclude part 2, and then I'll do a little William Hartnell retrospective, sort of looking at my scores and things like I plan to do, and then we'll move on to Patrick Troughton. But The Holiday for the Doctor starts off the Gunfighters with a very comedic sequence. You have the Clanton brothers set in Tombstone, set in, I think, Arizona is where we're set? So we have an already interesting sort of dynamic. We have the Clanton brothers riding into town, pretty much looking for a fight, and they, as characters, are very, very comedic, and I really quite like the comedy aspect that this story seems to be going for. The last story I watched was The Celestial Toymaker, and that was really dull. So this comedy makes me feel alive, and one of the things I was missing on my hiatus was William Hartnell's performance. Hartnell in this episode is hilarious. He has the toothache, and he is crotchety, and he is pretty much being like, oh, you're all being silly. I don't need a hat. Shut up and do we have to be here? And, I mean, the Doctor is really a joy of this episode. He is one of those things. His portrayal is what really, really gets this episode down to, I guess, to be a really good, solid episode. Like, we have a character who is, he's like, oh, I don't need I have a toothache. I don't need to be awful or anything, and it's just really quite fun. Peter Purves is great as Stephen, and Dodo seems to be more tolerable than I remembered, so that's really nice. Of course, the accents in this one are horrendous, because it's all Brits pretending to be American, and they are all very, very fake, and I can see right through it. That's really the only thing I really hated, but we have a really good story starting. We have people mistaking the Doctor for Doc Holliday. Doc Holliday being kind of lecherous and funny. His girlfriend Kate also being really, really funny. They're giving the Doctor them, like, oh yeah, go. And the cliffhanger is really good. Stephen and Dodo are forced to sing and play the piano, respectively. And it's just really good. So I'm going to give A Holiday for the Doctor an 8 out of 10. Alright, it is the 18th of September 2017, and I just finished watching Don't Shoot the Pianist, the second episode of the Gunfighters. It isn't better than A Holiday for the Doctor, but it is at least just as good, I think. William Hartnell, again, has some great comedic moments. His first line is, the Clanton brothers, how do you do? Just little things like that are really good, and things like, well, people keep giving me guns, and I don't drink. Just like all these little things that really, for the first time, establish the Doctor as he'll be later established in the series, which is quite interesting, just to watch that sort of play out and become to the forefront with the Doctor in this story still being very much sort of still very much the old man who's sort of like laughing just about it as everything sort of goes on, because he doesn't really come across at all as if he's like a threatening figure at all. Like, that really isn't really part of his character, so he really doesn't come off as threatening, and he sort of bumbles around. He gets himself arrested, which is hilarious, and really the big ending is that he's been arrested, and but to sort of, I guess, to save him, and like Steven thinks he'll get one up on the Clanton brothers, but then can't. So the big cliffhanger is that Steven's gonna be lynched, which is a very dark cliffhanger, and it works really, really well. Like, Peter Purves really sells it. Like, you can tell that he is scared for his life, which is an effective way of doing a cliffhanger. It's a good way of getting the character to feel natural and just to feel like they're in real danger here, and not some sort of a fake, quote-unquote fake danger, I guess, which, I mean, not very common to have sort of a fake danger, but you sort of know what I'm going for. I hope. Jackie Lane as Dodo is probably the weakest link of the episode. She just sort of sits around and gets herself captured. She has not really any sort of agency of her own, it seems. So she's just sort of there to be like, I'm a companion and I'm asking questions every now and then. It's not a very good part for the character. She really, honestly, she doesn't do much in the story. She just sort of is there, gets a few lines, and gets captured. You feel, I'd also maybe say not much plot actually progresses in this episode. I mean, I guess we're building up to the gunfight at the OK Corrales. That's what we're sort of going to with everything. So, I mean, Doc Holliday skips town with Dodo, and that's probably going to be what's going to propel us through the next episode. Because without that, I don't think there would be any real reason for the Doctor and Steven to stay in Tombstone. Because, I mean, they obviously can't just leave Dodo, even though, well, it's Dodo. You could easily get away with leaving her, and no one in the audience would care at all. Like, really, it's just Dodo. Who needs her? Again, I don't like Dodo. She's not a very good character at all. Like, she just sort of does nothing. So I think I'll give Don't Shoot the Pianist another 8 out of 10, which is interesting that we're keeping this up, and then I'll be back tomorrow with Johnny Ringo. It is the 19th of September 2017, and I just finished watching Johnny Ringo, the 3rd episode of the Gunfighters, and the best episode yet. This one really knows how to get the tension going and get things, basically it knows how to get things moving and get us, it's effective as a 3rd episode, is what I'm trying to say. It introduces the character of Johnny Ringo, who is another gunman, coming to want to kill Holiday. It has Steven go off with him because they obviously want to save Dodo. And saving Dodo is a very, very good aim because even though Dodo's a weak character, they wouldn't want to leave her behind. She just doesn't really, she just doesn't do much for me. What's nice is that leaves Dodo with only one thing to do, and probably she has her finest moment here, where she pulls a gun on Holiday, says, alright, well, I'll try not to kill you, but I'm gonna shoot you in the arm. Miss, you're trying to shoot me between the eyes, which is just, it's a hilarious scene, obviously meant for comedy, and Jackie Lane really does pull it off very, very well. She did a stellar job as Dodo in this story, which is, well, I can't believe I'm actually praising Dodo, because it's Dodo, and Dodo is synonymous with idiot, as we all know. Dodo is not a good character, but this story might be her finest hour. I mean, it's her 3rd story, her 3rd full story, and she's leaving. I'm pretty sure she's leaving in a couple more, so, we don't have too much more with her, so it'll be interesting to see how she develops as a character in these last couple of episodes that we have with her. And I'll just be really interested to see what sort of things happen because of that. It's interesting, at least. It's something interesting for me to really see what sort of character Dodo is going to become. I know, it's weird for me saying that because it's Dodo, but, So, yeah, you have that. Um, you have the stuff with Dodo. You also have some hilarious stuff with Hartnell and the Earp brothers, where he calls Wyatt Earp through this entire thing, Mr. Warp, which is it's this little bit of comedy that just really really works. It makes sense. A lot of it's the Doctor just sort of being the Doctor, and I really do enjoy William Hartnell's performance. He is an excellent comic actor, and he really knows what's going on. I have to say, this is also, it's kind of interesting, because I'm really enjoying the story, even though the viewing figures, as I can tell, as far as I can actually tell, have been lower. They've actually been mainly just lowering over the course of the thing, and we seem to be going towards a sort of an era. We have Innes Lloyd as producer. Innes Lloyd, I haven't talked about him yet, but I think as a producer, he's doing a much better job than Wiles is. Because he makes it look like Hartnell's having fun. Like, in the Massacre and in the Ark, one of my complaints is that Hartnell wasn't having nearly as much fun as he used to have in the role. There's just much less sort of, I guess, gallivanting around history, and that's kind of sad, because, he's a great comic actor. And seeing him as this doddering old man in these later episodes are great. So, the only problem, again, is Dodo is still pretty dumb. So I'm going to give Johnny Ringo a 9 out of 10, and I'll be back tomorrow with The OK Corral. So, it is the 20th of September 2017, and I just finished watching The OK Corral, the final episode of The Gunfighters, and while Johnny Ringo was the best, this doesn't come in as, not much far behind, with an episode that takes place mainly dealing with just trying to wrap everything up, which is probably where it falls flat the most, just because it doesn't quite know how it wants to wrap things up. It just sort of gives us stuff to go to and then calls it quits. Basically gets through the big historical event of the gunfight at the OK Corral, and then sort of just calls it to be the end of the episode, really. There isn't too much made of where the episode is going to, where we don't get as much resolution with the characters, which is what I'm really trying to say. Sure, it's there, it happens, it just isn't quite as satisfactory as you would hope for a story. You'd hope you'd get a little more, and everything just sort of wraps up, and you could easily go on for quite a bit longer. But the villains are defeated, the day is saved, and we get a pretty decent lead-in into the next episode, into the next story, which is, of course, that's for me to know and you to find out later. But still, Jackie Lane as Dodo is a non-entity. She sort of helps out Doc in the gunfight with Doc Holliday, but that really doesn't do too terribly much for her character. It's just like, it's very much now I get to help out. How great am I? Yay. Still nothing very interesting to have for the character, which is a big shame, because, again, we're getting closer and closer to her leaving the series, as it were. And it'll be interesting to see just what sort of happens with Dodo if we get anything in these last couple of episodes. Steven's okay, again, not getting much to do, because it really just focuses on the side characters. Hartnell is still really pretty good in this episode. He does great as the Doctor, as he always does, and it really is just something that I quite enjoy watching, because William Hartnell is just a great Doctor. I think he's back on track with getting being in the spotlight again. So here's hoping that we have much more fun moments with the Doctor. Like he has this great moment where he keeps telling the people, "We shouldn't, we shouldn't. What are you talking about? We shouldn't be violent. It's not like we're in the Old West or anything. It's things like that really just make Hartnell a joy, a real joy to watch. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give the OK Corral an 8 out of 10. That being said, we can do the standard averaging of the scores to give the Gunfighters as a story an 8.25 out of 10. Thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you next time when the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon continues with the next story in the sequence, which is The Savages.